My name is Amani El Jack, and I teach in Women's Studies. And as you could tell, I'm not a computer savvy person by any means. But my journey teaching between traditional or regular classes, web enhanced classes, and fully inline classes, it has been a kind of an evolutionary and unfolding journey. I was first introduced to Blackboard about 10 years ago when I taught my first Blackboard Vista class. Um, and the technology came a long way. Since then, there are different versions of Blackboard. But since arriving here at UMB almost 4 years ago, I have been teaching predominantly web-enhanced hybrid classes, and I also developed 3 fully online classes. One graduate course on conflict resolution, on gender and conflict resolution for the Women in Politics and Public Policy graduate certificate, and 2 online classes for women's studies, one on gender and migration, and the other one on war, femininities, and masculinities. I'm recently transitioning my web enhanced classes. One of them is a lower level class, and another one is a 300 level class, to be taught as fully inline classes during intersession. So I'm constantly moving between teaching web enhanced as well as fully online classes. So what possessed me to engage in this kind of online business? For the most part, my own research agenda. My research focuses on transnational migration, and I look at migration patterns caused by armed conflicts, caused by development projects, and caused by globalization, generally speaking. And my research took me to various refugee camps in East Africa, and through my research it became very clear to me that education, borderless education, is essential in giving refugees not only a voice, but the necessary skills that allow them to contribute to their own development and the development of the places where they will end up at. I'm working closely now with the Lost Boys of Sudan. I'm not sure if you are familiar with that. What I call the invisible women, because we have women here. And I'm really hoping at some point to develop an online class that could be done in collaboration with one of these refugee camps. I'm part of a collaborative research project on borderless education at York University that deal with with education for refugees, and it involves the UNHCR. And I'm hoping that at some point we'll be able to find a technology where we could do online teaching in conjunction with the UNHCR and refugee. So this is like my journey. But regardless of the reasons, I really, in many ways, love utilizing the technology and teaching fully web enhanced as well as fully online classes or web enhanced one. And I love it for a variety of reasons. The first one, the technology allows me to respond to the diverse needs of our body of students here at UMass. In my department, we usually have a wide range of students. Most of them are mainly there, mainly to meet the gen requirements or the distribution requirements, and don't have the background, either in women's studies or in some of the global issues that we engage with. And teaching like web enhanced and online classes has the flexibility and convenience of having that 24/7 hours access to resources and to materials and class discussions has really tremendously been useful both to me and to my students. Similar to Amy, I cannot brag enough about the importance of discussions and chat rooms. There are many ethical issues and there are many kind of contentious issues that arise out of that. But students gain, and myself, I gain so much skills and knowledge out of teaching some of these online classes. I also love it because it's accessible, it's affordable, and it's green. Like I no longer assign books in any of my classes. I rely predominantly on e-books and e-reserve items. And that like saved me so much hassle and so much time. And again, I think online and web enhanced kind of teaching place much accountability on the students themselves to better manage their times and their resources. I no longer worry about policing like assignments when the essays were submitted and whether they were stamped or not. Many of the students have to take up their fights with the system because Blackboard automatically labels the assignment as submitted on this day or as never submitted. So, so like I always go back to Blackboard and will find some kind of resolve some of the solutions over there. But it is true that web enhanced teaching is time consuming. Like there is tremendous amount of time to prepare, to maintain, to respond to endless kind of conversations and emails. But nevertheless, like I can work on my own schedule. I can work at home, midnight, 3 in the morning when I'm restless. And I have to admit that my online, particularly fully online classes, are much more organized and structured than my other classes in many ways. But the picture is not all rosy, and I just want to show you a couple of there are real challenges and real disadvantages. But let me show you the class that I'm teaching now. This is the web enhanced class. Let me go to the students view. So this is a 300 level class for women in African culture. Is there any way we can reduce the light here? Can you see? Yeah. All right. So I usually ask my students to start here. This is the and I post my weekly. This is a web enhanced class. This is not a fully inline class. So I post my weekly lecture notes here at the end of each class. It has like the overview and the lecture notes. We just started presentations. So I have the presentation rubrics that the students should consult with before they start their presentations. And I also have the presentation schedule, which shows the, so it's a tentative schedule which shows which topics and which readings and the times that the student sign for their own presentation, and that saved me so much communication back and forth with the students. Then, on page, what else? I have, like I usually sometimes post additional references that I assign besides the references that are already available via e-reserves. Extra credit assignment information. But the most important part is the start here kind of bottom, which I should have started with. This is a course on women in African cultures. So I give the students various maps of the continent, and they could see like physically which parts of the continent we are talking about. I have my teaching philosophy, which it's available for the students to look at so that they know what they are getting themselves into. And I have my syllabus. And these resources are usually available before the beginning of the class. So once the student registers for the class, they could go in, see a detailed syllabus which shows like pretty much the traditional, how the traditional syllabi are. It shows that all the resources that I don't use books, and I rely predominantly on e-reserves, and this is the password to access e-reserves. So the students that are prepared ahead of time. And I think, Amy, pretty much you covered the basic other functions, the announcement sections. I usually try to have a nice welcoming kind of message to the students at the beginning. Again, just basic housekeeping kind of information. and I post announcement after that as I go. I do my assignments, and I will talk about that maybe when I talk about the what I learned from online class in my regular classes. So I'll talk about the assignments later. So it all looks great, doesn't it? Like very fast. I really love it. I'm very passionate about it, and I encourage all of you, if you could, to use to take use of the technology. And we are really very well mentored here. Like the IT department are really amazing. Like if you look at the students' view, they have a 24 hours student support, and there is an 800 number as well as emails. And if the students have any issues with Blackboard, they know whom to contact. And we have our own faculty helpline as well, that they hold your hand and guide you through these like tricky technology areas. What did I do?
Yeah.
See, I told you. So what are the challenges? So as much as I love it, I am often concerned about questions of equity and power relations. I think we often forget that not all of our UMB students have computers and laptops. Not all of them have access to internet there in their house, in their homes. Like many of our students in the Women's Studies department deal with different kind of power issues, money issues, like across different kind of paradoxes of power, class and other kind of disadvantages. And that becomes like, for me, that's usually a real concern, that some students sometimes have to go to an internet cafe to complete a certain assignment, and that hinders their full engagement. And I think that's one of the issues that we need as instructors to be more sensitive to. Students with special needs as well is another issue, that it's not very obvious when we are doing pedagogically speaking. Some of the students, a few of them, lack basically every student can enroll for online classes, and we assume that they either know the technology or they have the skills to engage in online learning. Like in my regular classes, I can always refer the students to the Ross Center, or I can meet with them after class, before class, and work with them through some of these issues that they encounter. Online teaching and particularly in my online in my online teaching, I struggle with some of these kind of ethical dilemmas and ethical issues. Another issue is plagiarism, which is like a common phenomenon that we all struggle with in all our teaching. But with the whole cut and paste kind of phenomena, and with the students being online most of the time, plagiarizing from internet sources or internet sites became shamelessly doable. It's just an extension of what they were doing all the time. And how to monitor that is another issue. In the class that I taught in the winter session, some of the students who might not be fully prepared to take online classes and find themselves there for a reason or another sometimes feel isolated. And that comes out in one way or another. The discussion format, as useful as it is, sometimes raise contentious questions that pose certain challenges to the students. The online course that I taught in the winter session in January, they dealt with wars, femininities, and masculinities. And we spent a lot of time talking about different wars and the way that they lead to shifting meanings of femininities and masculinities. The students had no problem talking about wars in Africa or Kony 2012 and all those issues. But when we're talking about the Iraq War and the Americans' implication in the Iraq War, some of the students who might be engaged in the military in some capacity or another, or coming from veterans background, it became a very kind of tense discussion. And me as an instructor have troubles mediating the conflict around that. So there are many kind of issues. I don't have the answer to that, by the way, but it's a question that we maybe collectively need to pay more attention. How do you deal with contested discussion issues? In terms of students' isolation, what I try to deal with that in the fully online format, we use the WIMBA classrooms, which is like the virtual classrooms. And I usually have 3 WIMBA live sessions where I meet with the students at the first week of the class, and I just lay the law at them, and these are the kind of guidelines and instructions. We meet mid-class, and we go through content issues, and then we meet towards the end of the class to discuss assignments and final essays and all these kind of questions. But even WIMBA classes, many of the students who take online classes, they are taking it because they feel that they are liberated from the classroom attendance kind of issues. And I really struggled with that. Like when I taught the first online class, I didn't assign any grade to attending the WIMBA class, and many of my students ditched it. Like we had to reschedule it 3 times, and we only have few students attending. So the second class, I assigned it as an extra credit assignment. And again, many students were willing to forfeit that extra credit assignment. And in my last class, the January class, I assigned 5% as conditional to attending WIMBA. But the real issue is that these students are working different schedules. There is no good time to schedule it. If you do it during the day, some students are working during the day. If you do it like 6 or 7 at night, some students are working around that time. Many students who attend the class, I could hear the children noises from the background. And I was instructed, press this button so that you can mute the voice or the noise at the background. But it raised many kind of issues and challenges. So what I learned from online teaching, and this is like, and I will show you my online class, but with this like web enhanced class, I'm pretty much using the same technology that I use in my online teaching here. Because like, I assign usually an extra credit assignment at the beginning of my online classes. And the assignment, I ask the students, why did you take this online class? Besides satisfying the requirements. Or I know that you're graduating and you have to take that class, 2 classes, and this happened to be one of them. And many of them indicated that they are taking online classes because of the flexibility, or because they could balance their own schedules, or because they know ahead of time how to organize. And I try to use that and utilize that in my web enhanced classes. So this is my like African cultures class now, and I have like the different assignments ahead of time, so that they could know from the beginning of the semester that the first reflection paper is due in February, the second one is due here, the presentations are due, and the final essay, and they could plan ahead of time. And actually some of them usually submit their assignments way ahead of time. So they have all the resources that they need to complete the assignments. They have the rubrics, they have the readings, they have the guidelines, they could work on their own time. So that was one of the skills that I really used, the discussion boards, and just continuing the conversations. Like one of the issues that the students have been discussing lately, the CONI 2012. And again, the question is, what do you think about the whole fiasco about the YouTube kind of video and the impact that it causes? And many of them, yes, they saw the producer but naked on all like mainstream media, but that wasn't the issue. The issue is like the whole questions and the ethical questions when engaging in research with countries in the global south, and the problems that often the issues, the problem that it entails. So I like the discussion questions. I post weekly discussion questions, and what I do with my discussion questions, I know that in my, this is like a web enhanced class, so I have students who participate in class discussion and very vocal, but there are some students who are shy or who are not very confident in their views. So when I finalize my evaluation of the students' participation, I look at Blackboard and I monitor quantity and quality of students' participation, particularly those who don't feel comfortable talking in class. But I also look at the in-class participation, and I try to find a kind of fair way of evaluating all students for any form of engagement in my classes. But like reading my students' evaluation, and I just went through the 4th-year review process, I was really humbled to read the students' kind of comments and reviews on the classes. And most of them were really, they benefit a great deal from the accessibility of the resources, for the open approach to dealing with many of the issues, and their ability to manage their times and stress less about some of these issues. So, but teaching online does pose unique challenges to both the instructors and to the students. That's a reality. And it entails lots of advantages and disadvantages. I looked at some of the literature on online teaching, and I thought, let's see what is happening out there. And the literature, it's still in its infancy. Like there is not much done. Most of it is written from the instructor's perspective, but and it's inconclusive. Like some of the studies indicate that the technology really didn't matter. That when they examine through a standardized test or outcome assessments, that the performance of those who take online classes in comparison with those who take regular traditional classes are the same. But I looked at a couple of institutions that are comparable to ours. For instance, a study at North Carolina State University examined the impact of online learning and found that there is no big difference. Like students will do the same whether it's online or in class. But another study at California State University, Northridge campus, indicates that online students tested 20% better across the board than their counterparts who learn in traditional classrooms. And again, like these are state institutions that might, in some ways, I'm not sure if anything has done around UMB here, and would be curious to know comparison of students' performance.
I don't know that anybody has actually done that study. It had been a very interesting study.
Exists.
They
It
did?
did?
Yes, it exists. We actually attended something, web-based forum through Sloan C that actually, outside the school, that they did a study that compared, student
Yeah.
outcomes.
But regardless of the conflict or the inconclusiveness of the scholarship around that, the internet online revolution is here to stay. We can't escape it. So I think we need to sharpen our own technological and pedagogical tools to fasten our seat belts and get ready for a bumpy or maybe exciting virtual ride. All right.
Okay, thank you, Amani.